Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming to our webinar. Uh, as you all know, everyone is welcome. Our webinars are free, but if we have expenses, so if you could help us, please donate. Just go to our website, rockymountaineatheist.ca, and you'll find the donate button there. Any amount helps us to keep on doing what we do. Okay? So just a few announcements before. We are an inclusive community of atheists, humanists, skeptics, secular freethinkers, and we welcome everyone from all backgrounds. We have never had any disruptions in our webinars, and please, let's keep this record going. Discussion is encouraged, but please respect each other. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A, so you just use your hand raising icon on your Zoom app, and we'll ask you to unmute yourself when you're ready to ask your question. And please keep the questions on topic. Okay. Quick disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed by the speakers and audience during this event are their own, and they don't reflect the official policies, positions, or views of the Rocky Mountain Atheists. Our guest speaker tonight, Kenny Biddle, ghost hunter, science-based investigator, writer, producer, and podcast host. And he will be presenting strategies for solving mysteries. So whenever you're ready, Kenny, you can take over.
Okay, let me see if I do this right. Hopefully I do this right. And share my screen. You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Good. All right. So I apologize in advance. I do tend to talk fast, but I will try to slow down and articulate my words because my Philly accent will come through and you probably won't understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, so this lecture is about strategies for investigating mysteries, and they also help with solving mysteries. And this doesn't mean just paranormal or wacky kind of mysteries. It's pretty much any mystery that you want to look into. Some of what we're going to talk about tonight can apply to those in your daily life. So let's go into this. All right. So this first slide, this is a poster. Now, all of these titles here, be nice, ask questions, primary sources. This is actually a poster that you can see in the right-hand picture. This is above me, above my monitors. I keep it up here. I created this years ago to help keep me on track because sometimes my investigations get really, really in-depth and they take weeks, if not months, to complete. And sometimes I hit a roadblock and I'm not sure where to go. So I look up at the poster literally and see what haven't I tried before. And sometimes it takes me to look at a strategy that I've already done and go back to it to help move forward. So feel free if you want to, you can take a screenshot of this. Tonight we're going into a few of what you see on screen. I do have a full PDF, and I want to mention that if you're interested in learning more about the rest of these, my email will be on the last slide. Feel free to email me. I will send you the PDF of this that has full descriptions of each of these strategies, and it'll give you a better idea of what I mean with all of them. All right, so moving forward. All right, so the first thing I want to go into is about questions. Asking questions is probably the most important thing. It's the core of any investigation. You don't learn anything unless you ask questions, because that's how you collect data. That's how you get information from people. That's how you interview eyewitnesses. And many times we're left with vague answers. So they will tell us something. We'll get a description of an event. We'll get a description of a person. We will get adjectives and just descriptors of different things that happen, and we're not entirely sure. So that's when we have to actually ask clarifying questions. You have to clarify vague statements. So as it says here, this is when something is unclear to you. It's hard to understand. You're not sure what's going on. And it's important for us to ask clarifying questions because we want to avoid any confusion, misunderstanding, or misinterpretations on our part. because we're interviewing someone, we're trying to get all the data, and we want to make sure that we, as the investigator, get all the details correct. We want to know everything that's going on and exactly what is described and how. So sometimes you're going to be faced with follow-up questions. And there's two types here. Excuse me. There are open questions and validation questions. So the first type of clarifying question is the open question, and that's when you ask someone to elaborate on a particular point that they made. So, as the example here, if somebody makes a statement that a ghost was in period dress, that they were in a dark hallway or a dark room and they saw a woman walk by in period dress, what does that mean? To us, I don't know what period dress means. I really don't. I have an idea that it means maybe Victorian era, and that's probably it. But I don't know if we're talking about upper class or lower class. I don't know if it's a formal gown or a formal dress, or if it's somebody that's working in the garden or working at a hospital or something like that. I don't know what period dress means. So I would ask them to describe it in more detail. What did the top look like? What did the bottom look like? Was it a dress? Was it pants? Did they have boots, shoes? Any kind of jewelry on, stuff like that. You want to clarify exactly what they're talking about. The second type of clarifying question is the validation question. And this is when you repeat something that the speaker or the witness said just to confirm that that you actually heard what you think you heard. Because so many, especially in my line of work, I look at ghosts and hauntings and aliens and cryptids and miracles. Oh my, I see it all. So sometimes people say some weird shit, and I have to make sure that I actually understand what they're talking about and if they actually said what I heard them say. So you want to make sure of that fact. And then second, you want to confirm that you understood what they said. Maybe give it your own words and try to work it out between the two of you that, okay, now I understand exactly what you're talking about. And the example here is a real world example because I experienced this. I was on a panel discussion at a paranormal conference. So I was the token skeptic. And there was a gentleman there that was explaining about a haunted house and that he described the U.S. military investigated a haunted house. And he was part of this. And I was concerned because, one, I've never heard that before. And two, half of our audience, which was about 300 people, were Boy Scouts. It was a Boy Scout troop. So you're talking preteens and teens that were listening to this and absorbing all this information. So when the gentleman finally paused in his way too long lecture, I asked him directly, when you said the U.S. military investigated this house, is that what you meant? And he said, yes. And I said, all right, let me clarify even further. Do you mean that the United States military sanctioned an investigation of an alleged haunted house, or are you talking about a bunch of retired military personnel that got together with an amateur ghost hunting group and decided to go into this alleged haunted house for themselves? And he did the classic backpedaling, going, "Well, yeah, it was the second one. It was the second one. So it wasn't actually the military." So that helped clarify things, and it was an added bonus because I guess you call him scoutmaster. I wasn't in the scouts, so I don't know. But the guys that led the troops, plus many of the Boy Scouts, came up to me afterwards and thanked me for asking that question because none of them believed the statement, and they were happy that somebody actually called them out on it. So this is really important. I can't stress this enough, and I'm probably going to say that line throughout the entire presentation because everything is so important when we're investigating and trying to get accurate information. All right, so these are two different strategies that pretty much go hand in hand. And we're talking about consulting experts and staying in your lane. Both of these have to do with that middle statement. You do not know everything. I want to go on the sidebar here and say that I do a live stream show every Friday night, and it's an open forum. People can ask questions. I give opinions. I speculate. I give knowledge. But one of the rules that I read off 5 rules in the beginning of the show, every show. Rule number 2 is that I do not know everything. And that's important to say because as skeptical people, or even you guys that are part of an atheist group, I'm sure you go to different events and people learn about your background or what you're representing and say, oh, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about that? And they ask you questions expecting you to know every single thing about what they're talking about. And that's not true. That's simply not true. So getting back to the slide here, when you're faced with a subject matter for which you have little to no knowledge or experience in, consult an expert. And as the little asterisk explains, this doesn't mean a celebrity ghost hunter. It doesn't mean a YouTube influencer. It doesn't mean your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate. And I hope somebody got that reference in the audience. I really do. It means seek out someone who has the education and experience and background and training in the relevant field, in the relevant areas that can not only explain it to you, but explain it to you in terms that you will understand. For instance, when I have a physics problem, when I have a biology problem, I am neither a physicist nor a biologist, but I will consult them and I need them to be able to explain it to me in terms that I understand. So there's this thing where, and I'm sure you've all seen it, where two people that are professionals, they're experts in their respective fields or a very similar field, when they start talking about work, they talk in a advanced version of our language because they have terms that they know what they mean, but the general public doesn't. So that's fine and dandy when you want to, really give you all the information. But for someone like me, if they start talking like they're talking to a colleague, I'm going to be lost. So just make sure that they understand that you don't follow this and you need it broken down. I call it Barney style, which means, dumb it down to me because I need to understand it better. And most of the people that I deal with are happy to oblige. They're excited about talking about their work. Going to the next paragraph here, stay in your lane. This means it kind of goes hand in hand. Don't pretend to be an expert. And I see this a lot. I see this a lot throughout all the communities that I interact with cryptids and ghost hunters and UFO people. Oh, the UFO people are probably the worst of all three, the big three strange fields. But don't pretend to be an expert. If you're going to tell someone, if you're going to give your opinion about something, if you're going to speculate, say that. I always try to put that disclaimer in. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to tell the person I'm talking to, I'm going to speculate here. I don't know what I'm talking about. So don't take it a fact. Um, because if you're not an expert in that area, you could be contributing to the misinformation that is spreading out there. Because if you are coming in there, say like we all meet at, I don't know, like a We Can Reason event, hint, hint, and there's a bunch of speakers, the general public, the audience will come up and talk to everyone. And because you're a speaker, you are already viewed as an authority, as an expert. And they're going to ask you questions that might go outside of your area of expertise. And if you don't let them know that it's speculation or just your opinion that may not be supported by anything, they're going to take that information. And unfortunately, they usually take it as fact. And they will go back to their circles and present that information as fact. And that's how we unintentionally contribute to misinformation. So just make sure that if you're not an expert, don't pretend to one. And I don't expect this. This is actually more for the ghost hunters that I talk to when I do lectures for ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts, because I see a lot of that. All right, moving on. Verify historical claims. I love history. I love looking into history. I love tapping into the lives of people that passed away 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100, 150 years ago, and so on. I love getting into the records and just getting a glimpse of someone that may or may not have been forgotten by everyone else, as time moves on. So if you go to a alleged haunted location or even a site of a UFO sighting or a cryptid sighting or whatever, if there's a ghost tour, if there's a psychic that references an event in history as the cause of some supernatural phenomenon, take time to verify several things. One of which, if the event really happened. Because if you can verify that the event actually didn't take place, say there was an alleged murder or a suicide or a fire that took place in the location that took the lives of staff members, and you go back into the documents and newspaper clippings and stuff like that, and you find out that the event never happened, that story completely falls apart. There is no longer a foundation for the alleged haunting or experience, strange experiences. You also want to know who was really involved. There's been plenty of times where I've investigated a specific ghost because you go to historical places and they're always telling you they have Sally the ghost or George the ghost or Richard, and that's the ghost that's been haunting the place for 50 years or something, and they died in that stairway. And when you start researching it, for example, there's actually a case that I worked on. It was at a place called the Bel Air House in oh, I don't even know where it is because it's been so long ago. But I researched the place, and one of the claims from the owner was that a resident was there, and she had a nurse or a helper with her, like a handmaid kind of thing, named Mary, and that Mary died in childbirth while living in the house. And I went through all the historical records, and I actually found the woman that they're talking about, plus the servant girl named Mary, and found out that they were not only did they not live in the house we were in, but they lived way across town in a different house, and they weren't associated with this family whatsoever. So had nothing to do with the house, yet this person that passed away back in the 20s was blamed for haunting a house. So it's nice to be able to find those records. Uh, you also want to verify exactly when did an event take place because you might find a discrepancy in the timeline. One good example that I have is down where I used to live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. There's a fort called Fort Mifflin, and it's a Revolutionary War fort. And there's a prominent story about a woman. They nicknamed her the Screaming Lady because she screams. People hear a death scream from a woman, and the cops have been called out to the fort because they really thought somebody was screaming, but it's not actually. There's a nature preserve next door, and there's red-tailed hawks living next door, and if you look up a scream from a red-tailed hawk, it gives you chills because it does sound like a woman screaming her head off. Uh, Anyway, there's a story about this woman. Her name was Elizabeth Pratt, and that she was so distraught over losing her daughter because her daughter ran off with an enlisted man that was in the military. And so the mother hung herself from the second floor of the officers' quarters. So I was asked to come in by the fort management to come in and research some of these stories. And when I did, I found that Pratt was a real person, found her grave, but when she was supposedly when she supposedly hung herself from the second floor of the officers' quarters, I found that was false on two accounts. One, she actually died of yellow fever. There was an outbreak in the area, and she died of yellow fever. And two, the second floor of the officers' quarters was not built until 20 years after her death. So that just took the story completely away. And plus, there was other things. Her daughter was only like 4 years old, so it wasn't like she ran off with some guy. There was a lot wrong with it. So when you know exactly when an event took place, it usually dismantles the story. Oh, wait. You also want to know exactly when or where did an event take place, because sometimes they got the wrong house. A good example of this is the Conjuring house. So if you have seen the first Conjuring film, if you know about the house that's in Harrisville, Rhode Island, It's the site where Andrea Perrin and her family all claimed that there was a big haunting in the 70s, and lots of stories about it. It inspired the first Conjuring film. One of the ghosts that they had claimed was in the house was a young lady about 14 years old, and that she had rejected a man that wanted to marry her, and the man got angry and lashed out and nearly decapitated her in his anger and killed her. But they said that all happened in the house. And it didn't, because I did the research. I found her obituary. I found the court records. And it turns out that it was in Uxbridge, which is a different town about, I think, 40 miles away from the house. So none of those events actually took place in the house, but they just borrowed them. So that's why good historical research is important. And then at the end of this all, I say build a timeline. I always build a timeline of events. If there is like this is a well-known place, and I'm trying to figure out exactly when people lived there, when people died there, when any events allegedly happened in relation to additions to the house, any major events in the area, this and that. The timeline gives you a good visual representation of what happened and when. And then, things, discrepancies might jump out at you much easier on that kind of graph than just looking at all the different printouts that you have. All right. So this is important. Trust no one. I don't know if the music will work. I don't know if you can hear that, but hopefully you did. If not, I'm sorry. It was
Nope,
the X-Files theme. Okay.
nope, not at all.
Sorry about that. It was the X-Files theme. Just
That's
play it in
okay.
your head. So trust no one kind of means it. Well, it doesn't kind of. It means it's defined as a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. This is like trust is something that's thrown around a lot with family, with friends, and especially when you're talking about eyewitness accounts and people telling you stories. I've had too many times where people say, "Oh, I was in this haunted location, or I was in a field and some my friend saw this thing in the sky and it looked like a UFO, and I trust him because I've known him for 20 years." For me, if you know someone for 20 years, if you know them for 50 years, doesn't mean they're always right. So, yeah, I trust that they will try to tell me the truth. I trust that like family members will do the best they can for me if I need help. I trust that my wife won't put a pillow over my face when I'm sleeping after we've had an argument. Like these little things. It's little things that count. Um, but when it comes to trusting what someone says, I I do exactly what this quote that I added to the bottom of the poster. Don't blindly accept, instead fact check. So if information comes from my parents, my brother, my wife, my friends, extended family, colleagues that I've grown to trust because I think they do good work, I still fact check because people make mistakes. Plain and simple. They make mistakes, oversights, they forget something, they misremember, they misinterpret. Sometimes they have image or descriptions in front of them and they interpret it a different way than I would. People forget. They forget details. People fill in the gaps. This happens a lot, especially when people witness accidents or there's a crime that happens and they witness the crime. They see some of the things, but fear, anxiety, and not knowing what to do, panic sets in. You don't know whether to run or hide, and sometimes you're trying to hide, but you also want to know what's going on because you don't know if there's like an active shooter coming your way or not. You want to make sure you know where the safest place is, so you're not paying attention to all the details everywhere. So sometimes people fill in the gaps with what they believe is happening or believed happened rather than what actually happened. Um, and then, of course, people lie. This is something that I find all the time because people like to, um, they like to get clicks, they like to get views, they like to get the attention, they like the camera on them. Um, and if it brings them any kind of income, they definitely will lie. I'm not saying everybody does. I don't want to make that impression that everybody, deliberately tells fabrications or makes up hoaxes, but so many people do. And I've had bed and breakfasts or hotels that have used the phone apps. I don't know if you guys ever seen them on your phone. You can add a ghost to any photo with just a couple clicks, and they've presented them to me, pictures with fake ghosts in them because they thought it was evidence and they wanted me to endorse it because they thought, oh, well, if I can get it by him, then everyone will come out and they'll pay these exorbitant prices in order to stay at my hotel. And I mean, I have a catalog of all the phone app ghosts that I can reference to go through because it became such a problem like 15 years ago. So yeah, be careful of people lying and fact check. Primary sources. This is another strategy that I use. This is basic research 101. You want to go to primary sources whenever possible. This is an original firsthand account about a person, object, quote, experience, or event from someone with direct connection. That means a person that was an eyewitness, they are a primary source. A journalist that attends a big banquet or covers a news story on site, on the scene, they are sometimes a primary source, but they also go to the police. That could be a primary source. And then um, there's a list here of government documents, research data, birth and death records, marriage certificates, interviews, diaries. I'm not going to go over them all, but there's a lot of primary sources that you can reference. I did put an asterisk on right dead center in the middle, photographs, videos, audio recordings, because you can look at old photographs and photos in old newspapers that are on public record. You can look at videos that are stored that have been stored for years and years, decades now, and also audio recordings. Same thing. When you're looking at something that's been around that has been documented to be around since like 70s or earlier, or the 80s or 90s, you can still trust them as primary sources to a certain extent. But I put the asterisk there because today everybody knows AI has become an issue. It helps, it hinders, it makes things look realistic. And then you have problems with little details that can be taken out. I use Photoshop and other editing software where I can make things disappear and present you with a video that is completely believable, but I can have things floating in the air and drawers in the kitchen opening and closing, or a piano playing by itself. Lots of stuff that you can do. So I don't trust them as primary sources all the time unless they are from decades ago. And then I still, grain of salt kind of thing. Secondary sources are one step removed from primary sources. Uh, they often use primary sources, but you also have to understand that they come with an extra layer of interpretation and analysis. So if I witness an event and I tell a firsthand account, and any of you read my firsthand account, and then you go to tell somebody else, you are a secondary source now. And you might have added your own descriptions or emphasis on certain parts that you thought were more dramatic. You might have left out some information if you didn't think it was important or boring. That changes the story. And now the next person, they could do the same thing and keep on going down the line. And this is how stories evolve over years because now they've changed, they've been added to, they've details have been deleted or just morphed into something else. And that's why it's so important to go to the primary source because you might find out a story has completely changed within 20 or 30 years, and it's a completely different story. A good example is the Brown Lady of Raymond Hall, which is a very famous, it's probably the most famous ghost photograph you would ever, you've all seen it. It's the almost the Blessed Mary shape on the stairs. It's a black and white photo taken in 1937. Very famous photo. Um, but there's stories about it, and uh, it's oh, I lost my train of thought. The analysis that comes with that is so many times removed that I'm not sure who to believe. And I had to actually go, oh, I found my train of thought. The story started in 1937. That's when a picture was taken. But when we go to like 19, when we look at the story, it goes back. The story of the place goes back before the 1900s. It's actually like 1860s, 1850s, but it's a different story. It's a different person that's blamed for being the brown lady ghost. When you get to 1900, there was a gentleman that wrote a story based on that. And instead of being taken as a story, it was taken as the true account. So he completely changed the story of the Brown Lady of Raymond Hall and made it to a different character. So pretty cool thing because we actually have an exact date when it changed. All right, going on to eyewitness testimony. Many factors can influence our memory of an experience. There's a bunch of things listed here. I've highlighted a few because they really do stand out to for what I deal with. Expectations. This is a big one because when you, especially in my line of work, when you're talking about supernatural events or monsters or aliens or something like that, usually you're dealing with someone that has a little bit of a belief already, if not a lot of belief, because they're doing it on the weekends. So if you're asking about them, they may not be telling you exactly what happened to them. They may be telling you a description of what they think you want to hear. So that's especially if you're on a TV show, if you're a TV host and you're coming out to interview them, if you're a news anchor or a reporter and you're coming out to interview them about a place, people tend to exaggerate, make things more dramatic. So the expectation is it's very scary or very spooky, and that's what they're going to go with. Wakefulness is another thing that I highlight here because so many times, like, as we get older, sometimes we go to bed earlier. We have a bedtime. I usually don't go to bed until like 2 a.m. That's my normal routine. But many of my friends, my colleagues, and even my wife, 10 o'clock is usually when they're in bed. Sometimes it's 9 o'clock, sometimes it's 11. Uh, but when you're doing these ghost hunts, and I do pick on ghost hunters a lot, so I apologize if I'm biased against them. But ghost hunters tend to go out on the weekends and they are at locations starting at 8 o'clock at night and they go to midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning. And for many of their members, that's way past their bedtime. So they are not as awake and aware of what's going on. Many of them, I have tagged along with so many teams where I watch members dozing off. They are sitting there, they're waiting for something to happen because they love to sit in the dark. They love to sit in the quiet. And when that happens, you usually hear one person, at least one person, start snoring. And I think it's funny. But that tells you that they are not alert, they're not paying attention, and if they start to dreaming or start to dream or they get into that very relaxed state, they might hear something when they really didn't hear something. And that's a problem because most ghost hunters will translate that to something of a supernatural experience rather than they fell asleep and started dreaming. Um, Relationship to witness. This is another thing that I highlight and talk about because, again, going back to that ghost app thing that I talked about on your phone where you can add a ghost to any picture with a couple clicks, can't tell you how many of those I've gotten from parents or grandparents where they said their son or their grandchild has given them this photo and now they are worried about their child or grandchild being in a house with this possible ghost and they want to know if I can help get rid of the ghost. And I look at it and it's a standard fake ghost that I see on these apps. And when I mention it to them, when I tell them this is what I see and I can show it to you if you'd like, usually the response is my son or my daughter would never prank me. And my first thought in my head is bullshit. Um, But I don't say that out loud. I try to nicely convince them, like, okay, how about this? Let me show you a picture. And I usually send them a picture of me with my hand out and the same exact ghost sitting in the palm of my hand. And then half the time I get an apology, which is nice. The other half, I never hear from them again because either they're too embarrassed because I just called them out, or they don't know how to approach it, and they don't want to talk to me because they think I'm making a problem here. Um, all right, so I want to go on to the next paragraph here, and that's separate the witnesses as soon as possible. If you are looking into any of these kind of cases and you get there as soon as possible, that's rule number one, get there as soon as possible to separate the witnesses because people tend to talk. They start telling the stories, they start adding details, and people will pluck details and fill in the gaps. We talked about that early on about verifying things because people love to fill in the gaps with things that they believed happened. And if they hear someone else say, I saw a dark figure down this hallway, and another person says, oh, I saw that too, the third person might say, well, I I don't know if I did. I might have, but since they are so sure, I'm going to go with that and say, yeah, there was a dark shadow. And the more times they tell it or the more they think about it, the more it solidifies as a memory. And then we get into false memories. I've had people where it was a group of friends, all of them except for one had an experience at a house. They had something where they thought they saw this shadow figure walk by them, and after a couple years of talking about this, the one person that wasn't there suddenly adopted this memory and made it their own. And they inserted themselves into the story until one day they were all talking and somebody made a comment like, you weren't even there. What are you talking about? And this person that wasn't there, she knew all the details, but from hearing it for so many years. So that's why we have to separate the witnesses as soon as possible. We get their descriptions, we let them talk. We get their stories, record it, definitely record it because you want to reference that later. And when you do start referencing later, then you can compare the stories and see if there's discrepancies, differences, reactions, if there's gaps in her story, and so on. So very, very important to do. All right. So this is another thing I love talking about because this is something that doesn't get talked about enough, at least in my circles. So when we talk about eyewitness testimony, we just talked about things about people wakefulness and stuff like that. We've also talked about people making mistakes, misinterpretations, and not understanding what they're seeing. So this is a graph. This is a list of people from what's called the Innocence Project. And this was founded in 1992. It's an organization that uses DNA and other scientific advancements to prove wrongful convictions. Okay? Nothing to do with the paranormal. But this group is a, it's an awesome group. I mean, they really fight for people that have been wrongly imprisoned for crimes that they did not commit. And I updated this about 2 days ago for this presentation. So I want you to look under results. It says 155 results. This this category is only for the people that were convicted of a crime based primarily on eyewitness testimony. Nothing else. I excluded every other filter. It's only for eyewitness testimony. And now I want you to look at time served. You're going to see people serve 25 years in prison, 20 years, 38 years, 34 years, 13, 31, 35, 13, 17. This is just one page of, again, 155 results of people that have lost three quarters, half, or a quarter of their lives because someone screwed up. Someone made the wrong description or had the wrong description, accused the wrong person, um, and they were an eyewitness to it. I want to switch over still in eyewitness testimony, but talking about trained observers, because this is something that comes up with me a lot. because I'm trying to demonstrate that eyewitnesses are not perfect. They make mistakes. And even trained observers can also make mistakes. A trained observer is defined here as a person who has received specific training to carefully watch and analyze a situation or activity, often with the goal of identifying key details, ensuring compliance with protocols, and reporting their observations accurately. When we're talking about police officers often come up as trained observers. Yes, they are trained observers. They are trained to watch a suspect, to see certain movements that they might make, nervousness, anxiety, um, trailing off, looking at certain areas, because they're expecting something. They're also trained to look at architecture for shadows in a building, because that's where a criminal might hide and jump them. Um, they're trained for other things. Firefighters trained for completely different things, looking for where a fire might go next. Structural integrity of places that have been burning for a while. Is that going to collapse? Can I walk on this? Nurses, doctors, they're trained for specific things. I guarantee you, no one is trained to look for a ghost or Bigfoot or a UFO. Even pilots are trained for certain things, but they also make mistakes. And I want to show you some examples. This gets a little morbid, so I'm sorry, but so like the first one, off-duty state trooper mistakes a dog for a deer and shoots a woman. So this story goes into a trooper that was out hunting, saw the tail of a dog and thought it was the tail of a deer, took a shot, didn't hit the dog, but hit the dog's owner. The woman is okay. She survived, but 66-year-old woman suddenly gets shot in the woods. Um, that that was a trained observer. That was a state trooper that made a mistake. And I want to make sure I put this disclaimer out too. I'm not saying that police officers or firefighters or all these other people that I'm talking about are horrible people. I'm saying that they made mistakes, and I'm trying to demonstrate that fact. Um, the next one up in the top right was the Coast Guard. They searched for possible stowaways in a shipping container at a port. They literally stopped all operations because one of the Coast Guard thought he heard voices coming from a shipping container. They isolated the shipping container. They emptied it. They actually they had to go through about I think it says 2,000 cargo containers to check. They never found anyone because the Coast Guard guy made a mistake. He thought he heard voices, and it was most likely the water bouncing against the ship and causing an echo that he heard rather than the voices. Uh, in the bottom left corner, we have a pilot that put a plane into a nosedive to avoid Venus. And that's only part of the story. So originally the guy was, yeah, he thought Venus was an oncoming aircraft, and he put the plane into a nosedive. But that was the first officer that did it. The captain came in, corrected course because he realized what was going on, corrected the course, fine. Not too long after, the first officer was again in command, and he saw a light coming at the aircraft, saw it was an oncoming craft, thought it was coming from above and coming down towards them. So again, he put the plane into a nosedive, but he was mistaken because the plane that was oncoming was actually below them. So we actually put his plane in a collision course with the oncoming aircraft. But again, the captain came in, saved the day, and was able to avoid any kind of crash. The last example here in the bottom right is the most tragic because it's there was a hunter, longtime hunter, very experienced hunter, going out for a wild boar. He mistook a black baseball cap for a wild boar. Um, and he took a shot. And as soon as he took the shot, his wife had actually screamed. He was in the campground. He wasn't actually out into the woods. He was in the campground with everyone. He put his rifle on top of a car, I believe, or a truck, and he took the shot. And his wife screamed out that their son was over there. And it turns out that he had shot his son in the head. Um, Now, I want to make it clear that when we're talking about wild hogs, yeah, um, they average from 3.5 to 6 feet long and weigh about 75 to 440 pounds. and this guy only saw a black baseball cap and then just took a shot. Didn't see the entire animal, took a shot because he made a mistake, a very, very bad mistake. Um, and this is all coming to a point here because I want to say that if eyewitnesses can make mistakes, if they can be mistaken in life and death cases, as we just talked about, they can be mistaken when it comes to sightings and descriptions of alleged cryptids, ghosts, UFOs, what have you. We are all subject to misunderstandings, misinterpretations, mistakes. We're usually, sadly, our species is overconfident in what I saw. We're confident in what we saw, what we believe happened, and we stand by that statement, even though many times it's not true. We can be easily fooled. So I hope that drives that point home because this is probably one of the most stubborn topics that I deal with when I deal with all of these eyewitnesses, alleged eyewitnesses to supernatural events. They know what they saw, and you can't tell them any different. But I give these examples to show, probably to put it into more perspective of everybody makes mistakes. All right, we're getting there. We're almost done. We're getting there. So type of equipment, it's very important to know the type of equipment that you're dealing with. If people are collecting data or bringing some kind of readings to you, you need to know what kind of equipment it is, the make and model. You need to understand what it does, how it works, if there's differences between the models, um, the specs of the models. You need to know the specs and the trigger specs because say like you're monitoring the temperature in a room and there's an alarm that goes off when it changes, when it gets hotter or colder. You need to know if does the alarm go off at like half a degree or does it go off at 2 degrees? This is important data. We need to know this. And it's true across all of these different gadgets. What you see in the top picture here, those are all ghost hunting gadgets. And none of them detect ghosts. None of them at all. They don't detect or capture. They've never come through and proven that they could do whatever they claim to do. Um, I want to demonstrate one, or actually, I have two pieces of equipment that I'm going to talk about. One is right in front of you. That's the one is the vibration activated light sphere, and the other one is the motion activated cat ball. As you can see from the actual object, they're the same thing. It's just different cards in the packaging. This was marketed, the one that says vibration activated light sphere, that was marketed directly to ghost hunters for about, I think it was like $14, 13 or $14 each. And it was claimed that it had an upgraded sensor. It had all these different sensors in it, that it was a great tool for contacting or communicating with ghosts because a ghost could come up, get near it, touch it, and it would light up because it works on vibrations. Uh, but basically, what it is was a cat ball because the original guy that sold these, I found his purchase receipt from the company and realized that it was the exact same thing that's in the cat ball package. There was no changes, same thing. It's a little tilt sensor, um, that a real cheap tilt sensor. It cost about, I think it was like 32 cents each, and the guy was charging 13 or $14. And then you see the cameras there. I bought like four or five of the vibration version, and I bought four or five of the motion activated cat balls, and had them next to each other, and just they randomly went off. There was no rhyme or reason to what they did. They just went off, and unfortunately, this is a popular item with ghost hunters today. They love their cat balls, and even though they're pieces of shit, sorry. um, the other type of equipment I want to go over is the called the Epic Box, which I have here. I have one here. I don't know if you can see. Oh yeah, you can see me. Um, so basically, this was a gadget that was promoted as a device that ghosts could talk to you. You could ask questions, and it would light up either the green light for yes or the red light for no. Um, and it's you really have to check the specs with all of these devices. What does what does the device measure? What's the method for measuring? Does the device have any components or processing power that can actually do what it claims to do? And that was important questions here because when I approached the manufacturer and asked him these questions, the first thing he did was block me on social media, which is a big red flag. Big red flag. So then I went to the website and I looked up the specs or tried to look up the specs. It didn't actually have any specs, but I did find in the highlighted block there that it says that it reads atmospheres, at, oh my gosh, atmospheric electricity and the movement of charges. This includes triboelectric, which is a fancy term for static electricity, EMF, charge density, radio frequency, polarity, and strength of the charges. And when the condition is right, the red LED will light up or the green LED will light up. And it's not a motion sensing device. It doesn't actually tell you what's inside. It doesn't tell you how it measures anything, or if it does measure anything, how it processes it. Doesn't tell you anything. So a friend of mine was bought this because, as you can see at the top of the page there, it was $175. I was not spending that on this, but my friend did, and he played with it and then sent it to me. So I got to play with it, and I got to open it up. And when I did open it up, I not only did I scrape all the black stuff off of the components that you see on the far left. I scraped all that off so I could see the serial numbers. I sent all this information and pictures to two guys, one of which is in the audience here, John without an H. I sent it to him and had him analyze it because he has a background to look at this and tell me what the components are, what they can do, and what they can't do. I also had a computer scientist look at it, tell me everything he knew about it. And the thing is, when I opened it up, there were no components in here that could actually collect the data that it claimed that it was collecting. It just wasn't capable of doing it. And the chip in here didn't have the processing power to actually read all that data. If it could read it, which it can, it couldn't read all the data, analyze it, process it, and give you a result in real time. It simply could not do it. So everything about this claim was completely false. And I tried to reach out to the owner of this and ask questions, but again, avoided me. And until I saw him at a conference, and then he yelled at me because I started asking him questions, and then he started screaming and cursing, and I was asked to leave him alone. So anyway, and I want to point out at the bottom here, this one was $175. They added a little speaker that costs $2 for five of them, but then the price went up to $240. It's a scam. If you ever want to make a lot of money, just start making ghost hunting equipment because they love to buy the ghost hunting crap and you'll make a lot of money. Finally, one of the last strategies I'm going to go over today is a very simple one. Invite a skeptical investigator onto these events, these investigations, these ghost hunts, these UFO hunts, Bigfoot hunts, whatever. Invite somebody like me, because somebody like us, because I'm including you guys too, someone like us will ask the difficult and awkward questions that they usually ignore. And when you bring them out into the open, it makes everyone feel awkward except for you because we love that. We provide explanations, alternative to paranormal, but we base it on logic rather than belief. We follow the data to a conclusion rather than starting with a conclusion and then working backwards, only looking for what agrees with our conclusion that we're walking in with. Again, it goes back to, the example here, the quote. I hear this a lot. I can't wait to get all the evidence from this haunted location. I see some version of that constantly, especially like Friday nights when people are getting ready to go out on their excursion for the weekend. They haven't even gotten there yet, and they're already convinced that they're going to get evidence, not collect data, but get evidence of ghosts or Bigfoot or UFOs or something like that. Not even there yet. Uh, skeptics like us, we will be more likely to point out flaws and assumptions in methodology, techniques, the background stories. We're going to ask those awkward questions like, did they really live here? Was this place even built when that happened? Stuff like that. And then again, we just demand strong, valid evidence. And you got to stick to your guns. I get both, I take it as a compliment and a complaint because by the end of the night, when I tag along with any of these paranormal kind of groups, I usually get told, damn, you ask a lot of questions. And I'm like, yeah, I do, because I want to know. I want to understand. I want to get it right. I don't want to put out information that's inaccurate or I think it's right. I don't want to do that. I want to present the best information to my ability. So I will ask question after question and I will demand you prove it. Show me. Show me the money. And in this case, it's show me the data because you got to back up what you say. With that said, this is the end of my presentation. A few things up here that if you're interested. CFI has a Western New York branch that I always promote. We do a lot of lectures here. We do a lot of events where you can come out and just hang out with us, meet us. If you're ever in the area, give me a call. Shoot me an email. If you're in the area and you want to come by the CFI building, I'd be happy to give you a tour. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you subscribe to Skeptical Inquirer magazine. That's who I write for. There's a lot of good information in there. If you don't agree with all of it, so be it. It's open for discussion, but at least get the information. And then two things that are personal to me. I do the Ghost in the Machine video series, and that is on the YouTube channel for the Center for Inquiry. I do very in-depth, deep dives on investigations. I show you all the documents. I show you experiments that I run. I do recreations and explain a lot of stuff and really go into the I get deep and dirty into the investigation, and I love it. And then the last thing is my Skeptical Help Bar, which I do Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's pretty much every Friday. It's an open bar kind of thing. We drink a little bit, we talk shop about paranormal topics and skeptical approaches and opinions, and I share information that I know. We look up stuff when we don't understand. If they ask me a question, I don't know what it is. We look it up, we learn together. And then oftentimes I have guests and I tap their brain and get their knowledge. So, and then the very last thing, because I know the Skeptical Help Bar was supposed to be the last, but my email is right there. Again, if you want a PDF of the strategies with descriptions, all 33 of them, then just send me an email and ask for it, and I will send it right back to you. And that's about it for me. So I will stop sharing. There we go. And I hope everyone enjoyed that presentation. I hope there was a lot of information. I hope I didn't talk too fast. Um, and there you go.
So you're saying these people didn't have a ghost of a chance?
Oh, man. I'm going to call you dad jokes.
Oh, as if Susan hasn't told that to me before. Yes. Yeah.
So, I don't know what you want to do now. If you have questions, feel free. I'm here for whenever you guys are done. Anything? Tell me I did a great presentation and nobody has questions. That'd be great.
You did a great presentation. Lots of people will have questions. Elio, we can't hear you again.
Oh.
Our host was trying to talk to us and we couldn't hear him.
I think it's a
Good
Mexico
job, Kenny.
thing. I don't know.
It's a Mexico
There you
thing,
go.
he
Yeah.
says. Wow.
There's a ghost here somewhere
Gotta
that's
blame something.
There's a ghost in the machine.
There you go.
Montezuma
Yeah.
down there.
Oh, it was amazing, Kenny. It was fantastic. And we'll have
Awesome.
a series of events like this with the similar topics. And wow, it's fantastic. It opens so much,
Good.
So
Good.
someone wants to start with the Q&A? I'm pretty sure we'll have a few questions here, even though your presentation was really thorough.
Thank
Really
you.
good.
I would love one day to do a full day workshop because again, I think I only did maybe like 6 or 7 of the strategies, and there's 33. So it would be one of the projects up on my you can't see, you can see just the edge. This is my whiteboard, and it's currently got 17 projects on there that I'm working on right now between videos, articles, books, and there's an experiment on there that unfortunately I learned can't go in the microwave because I don't want to talk about it. But
Okay, Robert. Yeah, Robert's here.
Yeah, just Kenny, thank you. That was a wonderful
you're welcome.
presentation. It sounds both exhausting, but I can see your passion, for this. And just kind of wondering, do you ever sort of have days where you just go, I can't believe people are believing this?
Oh,
Or
hell yeah.
like, is it getting worse? I don't know. I don't know how you keep going because it just feels like, you're banging your head some days with not your work, but trying as a
Right.
skeptic, sometimes you just run into this. And just wanted your comments on whether you do feel you're making a difference. I hope you are.
So that's I love how you sum that up because am I making a difference? Yes. And that's what drives me. Yes, there are days I get burned out where I'm just, like to be perfectly blunt, sometimes I'm sitting here like this going, why are they so stupid? Why? And I'm trying not to be mean, but it's like right in front of your face. Why can't you see it? Um, but I try to keep that inside. And, you don't want to promote that because I understand that there are some people out there that maybe this is the first time they're asking someone like me that question. And I don't want to give them that bad impression. I don't want them to think that a skeptical person is an a-hole because I had heard that question 1,000 times, but again, it's the first time they're asking it. So I try to remember that. There's some times when, yes, I get burned out. If the last video that I put out was it was concerning the basis for the last Conjuring film, and I did 3 weeks straight, and I mean straight, 21 days. I was in here every single day working on that because there was so much information, and I wanted to get it out in time for the movie. And then after I was done and posted it, I took 2 days where I didn't do anything. I didn't even come to work. I was like, yeah, I'm not coming in. I'm working from home today. And I sat and played video games and just did something different, switch your brain to something else, some other focus. Um, but yeah, I mean, do I have an impact? Yes, because I see things, I get emails from people, I get messages, I get people coming up to me at events that I speak at, and they are grateful. They all say thank you, which I truly appreciate, but I even more appreciate that they tell me how I had an impact on them, that now they look at things differently, that they've tried it, that they've actually said, some of them have said, what would Kenny do? And I'm like, that is so cool. Just to hear somebody that would be inspired by that. So am I making an impact? Yes. My boss, well, my former boss, he retired, Barry Carr. He had asked me that one time if we're making an impact, and I showed him all the emails that I get. So emails from people, messages when they write me to thank me or to tell me how I impacted their lives, I save it because I think for me that's special. That's my driving force. So I brought him a folder that was like 2 inches thick and said, "Here, look. These are all the people that are grateful for what we do, what I do, and you by extension, because you're letting me do this. You're helping me to reach out to all these people." So, yes, that was a long-winded answer to your question, but yes, I do have an impact. So, thank you. Good question.
Brent
Oh,
is next.
Brent?
Brent? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, great presentation. Thanks. Speaking of creating an impact, you briefly mentioned that AI has helps and hinders. Could you expand on that?
So I think In some cases, I've seen AI used in different things. It helps actually in one case, which will demonstrate both. Um, we have started a podcast version of our articles here. So Eric, who our outreach director, because he got promoted a couple of weeks ago, Eric behind the wall, because he actually behind this wall in the other office. Um, he has started a program. He started it weeks ago, actually like months ago, where he has taken all of our articles and he has converted them into podcasts because we had um, a blind man called us and asked if there was any way that he could read the articles because he obviously he can't read the magazine. And we talked about it and came up with this idea and he loved it. So in the beginning, we were using authors. So if you send in an article, we asked that you would, read your article, record yourself. And that became difficult because it took a long time. There was a lot of editing going on. So we have AI program that does the voice. So you could pick your voices, you put in the text, it reads it out, you do some adjustments. It sounds like a person, which is very helpful. I mean, that helps for us because we don't have to wait for the author to do it themselves. We can put it into a separate voice and have these ready in time for the launch of the next issue. So it's not a problem. The flip side of that is when we were talking about one of the options was you can put samples of someone's voice in there and it will generate a voice and read off in their voice. So I gave him a 30-second clip of myself. And I'm curious because, when I start talking again, like my Philly accent comes out and I start with the yos and stuff like that. I spoke the way I usually speak when I'm excited about something and doing a presentation. Gave him 30 seconds of that. 5 minutes later, he read out someone else's article in my voice. And I sat there going, wow. Like, I know that's not me because I know I didn't read it. I know what you were doing. And there's very, very, very subtle nuances that I was picking up. But to anyone else, that was me. And that's what's scary because now I can get samples of anyone's voice or someone can get a sample of my voice because, like I said, I do a show every Friday night. There's 2 hours at least every Friday night for 200 and I think 16 shows that I've done where people can pull my voice off that recording and they can make me say whatever they want. And that is scary to me because now I have no control over what people might think I said. And that's just true for a guy that chases ghost stories for a living. What if you're talking about politicians? What are you talking about actors? What if you're talking about teachers that a parent gets pissed off about because, they disciplined their child who deserved it, but now the parent's mad at the teacher and goes to his computer and half hour later has a recording of that teacher saying really inappropriate things. That's the danger that I see. Um, and I mean, those are extreme cases, but I also see people using it to try to insert voices into recordings, like saying, "Oh, look, it's a ghostly voice." And it's a recording saying different things or answering questions. It's manipulating photos. Like I said, I'm pretty good at Photoshop and video editing. I can create almost any kind of like spooky, scary, haunted video that you want. Um, but other people can do it by asking AI to do it. And if they get the right prompts, they can make something that's pretty convincing in an hour or so. And now that makes my job harder because now I have to go into much greater detail and try to figure out what's going on here. And luckily for me, it's my circle is so small and not as important as world events. Um, it's not much of a big deal. But those cases that I talked about, like teachers and politicians and anyone of importance, CEOs, whatever. Like I could go to HR and say, "Hey, I have a recording of my boss sexually harassing me. Here it is." And what are you going to do? How do you defend against that? I mean, you might be able to, but you're going to spend a lot of money. You're going to lose your job. You're going to get a bad reputation because we all know it only takes one person to say something out loud, and your reputation is destroyed. So, is that good enough? Is that good?
So your strategy has had to evolve though,
Yes.
then in the last, well, maybe five years or so, I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I got to keep ahead of it. We have a gentleman close by. His name's Tim Redman. He's done a couple lectures here. He's talked about AI and the implications, such as what I mentioned. So he's offered some tools. There's some online tools. There's an article that I wrote. I didn't really write it. I reached out to several of my colleagues and asked for tools that they use for researching and investigation. And I reached out to Tim Redman and asked for several of the tools that he uses to help identify AI generated imagery, video, and audio. And it gives you, it doesn't 100%, but it usually gets up there with like 70, 80% uh, 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 uh,
Right.
accuracy of if something is AI or not. So I can pull that up for you. If you send me an email, I'll send you the link to that article, and then you'll have the tools that I use.
Okay,
So
thank
good
you.
question.
Thank you.
Question.
Jim?
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, a few things I thought of during the discussion. One that came up was a webcomic I'm following called Between Failures, and sort of well into it, the characters get into a uh, ghost hunting thing. They do discover something weird in the building, but it's not a ghost. Uh, um, a sort of built-in basement that nobody knew of, and hidden behind things, and they find a few interesting and disturbing things down in it, but nothing ghostly.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it was that that part of the story was rather fun. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Any other questions?
Um,
Lois?
uh, yeah.
Uh, Lois?
Lois?
Thank you very much. That was really great.
Thank
I was wondering if you are ever invited to talk to law classes about eyewitness testimony. I've heard about him having, rather unique things that they create to convince law students, how bad eyewitness testimony is.
Right.
Have you ever been invited?
I have not. That would be interesting. I would love to do that.
Well,
Because I mean, the major part of my job is interviewing people,
mhm.
getting the eyewitnesses, and I mean, I spend time going to neighbors' houses when I go on location, talking to them, talking to store owners, and just talking to historians and experts, just getting the information. So you get that sense of like, what questions do I need to talk about? What do I need to clarify? Um, how confident are they in what they're telling me? And are they nervous? There's a lot of shifting. I mean, the body language is weird because
Mhm.
it's not exact science at all. It is looking for tells, but not every tell is actually a tell, and it
Yeah,
depends on person to person. Some people are naturally nervous. You start questioning them, and they know they're getting grilled. People tend to get nervous, and they sweat. They look around. They're fumbling with their hands. Some people might start rocking. It depends on who they are. Other people could be lying out their butt, but they're like, "So,"
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like,
Sociopath. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So looking at the tells and understanding when people are getting nervous about certain questions and maybe how they look, you want to look if they're looking at someone else. If I'm asking you a question and you constantly look over to somebody else before you answer,
Mhm.
that's telling me, all right, you're worried about this. You're worried about that person. Let's go take a walk. Like it's you and me. We'll just take a walk away from that other person. Now you can tell me what you need to tell me. But yeah, I'm getting off trail here. So
No,
no,
but
I have not been invited.
yeah.
I would love to. I think that'd be a great
Mhm.
idea.
Well, like I say, the eyewitness really, the ones that really believe what they saw,
Right.
but are, but well, for a variety of reasons, didn't, you know, saw it wrong.
I had one experience, but one witness that told me that they had this ghost story. There was nothing I could say that would convince them otherwise. They saw a ghost. Said, "All right, talk to me.
Mhm.
What did you see?" They were at a party. They looked across the room. They saw a woman that was out of place, and they started to go towards her, and suddenly they were gone. Couldn't find them. So that was a ghost to them. It's like, all right, why were they out of place? They couldn't tell me. Like, so did they look nervous? Did they dress weird? Were they like Victorian gown when it's like a 80s rock night? Like what set them apart? And they couldn't figure it out. I said, all right, well, let's move on to the next point. You said they suddenly disappeared. Were you like, is this a very short room? Was it a little like a living room? Well, no, it was a big room. It was like a party room, like a big hall kind of thing. All right, were there other people there? Well, yeah. Okay. Like 20 people, 100, 200? Like, yeah, about 200 people. Is there any chance that any of them walked between the two of you as you were walking towards that person? Well, yeah. And by the end of this conversation, because of so many questions,
Mhm.
they were like, well, maybe you're right. Maybe it wasn't a ghost and it was just a woman that was at the party and I just didn't see her leave. Okay. We made progress. And at the end of that show, he was, because it was a podcast that I was on, and the host was telling me he was actually grateful because he was more worried that I was going to make fun of him
Yeah, yeah.
for being wrong than actually happy that we figured out the more likely cause. And I mean that's my job. I make fun. I only make fun of people that are just mean, just mean people. I
Yeah.
don't. I'm
Uh-huh.
not going to make fun of you if you think you had it because people that had an experience something. We just had to figure out what they experienced. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, their interpretation comes from their own biases, their own beliefs, and
Mhm.
then how other people start interpreting what they tell them. So there's a lot of influence going on, and maybe not everyone is going to ask certain questions. So,
Yeah, well, you might be interested in the way they did it in the law class that I heard about. I wasn't there. Um, the prof had created or set up something unbeknownst to the students where some guy comes roaring into the class upset and scared and he has a gun in his hand and he looks at the class like he's shocked and anyway and then runs out and the prof had a plant there that when they started talking to me he said, okay, let's talk this out. This plant says, well, no, he had on a red plaid shirt and he had went, specifically, which was not what the guy had on.
right,
And the plant described things wrong, but he was describing it very confidently.
right,
And by the end of the discussion, half of the students in the law class believed the plant rather than their own eyes.
right,
And it's things like that people can believe the wrong thing, even
right.
though they're being genuine.
That's why it's so important to separate the witnesses, get their separate stories, write everything down. I record everything. I usually have some kind of recorder with me. For us old school people, I still have a cassette deck here. I have several micro cassette recorders that I use just because I like the old school. But I have digital recorders. I have those. I have my notebooks. I always have a notebook by my side because I'm constantly writing it down. And you're right. The confidence of someone retelling their story makes it more believable. Doesn't mean it's more true. It just means people are going to look at them and go, "Oh, well, he's confident. He must know what he's talking about."
Mhm.
And I could do the same thing and just totally make up a story and tell you with confidence, and people will believe it. And that's big in these communities, these paranormal
Yeah, yeah.
communities where you have and honestly, the stereotypical ghost hunter, Bigfoot hunter, UFO hunter is the white guy that's middle-aged white guy with a photographer's vest, bulging pockets with batteries and all kinds of gadgets that they really don't know how to use, but they come off with that confidence. I know what I'm talking about. You ask them a question, they give the wrong answer, but they say it with such confidence that everyone soaks it in. And then it's really funny when someone is like me is like, I got a question. I don't think that's right. This is why. But
Mhm.
yeah, good question. That's interesting. I would love if law school reached out. That'd be so much fun
Yeah. See,
because I could
also,
set up a scenario and really screw with them.
That would be fun.
yeah,
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
yeah. Of course, that reminded me of this classic thing where uh, two lines drawn on the board, and which one is longer, and you get it, and you get four people in there. Three of them are told to say the shorter one is actually longer, and
Right.
how is the other guy
All
going to trust his own eyes?
right.
Yeah.
Brent? Looks like Brent raised his hand.
Yep.
Yes, yeah, thanks. Yeah, so near the start of your presentation, you had that collage of sayings or whatever, and one of them was the go around strategy. Yes, yes,
Yes.
thanks. So could you elaborate on that strategy? What's
So
that?
yeah, so there's a corner of this. Let me see if I can get it up here. So the bottom corner here is more towards video. So we have things like the go around maneuver, the light switch on off cut, fishing line thread, motion blur. These are all more for video. So the go around maneuver is basically when you see people um, they're making a video. They think something spooky is happening in their house. Say like there's a light going on and off in a room, and they have their phone, which I come complete with a Ouija board, but they're filming as they're walking towards that room. And as they go in, instead of going in the room like this, they go in the room like this because they are going around an accomplice that is either standing off to the side or hunched down and reaching up to turn the light on and off. And as they go around like this, it's a wider arc, which looks unnatural. Most people don't notice it at first, but when you rewatch it and you point it out, people are like, oh, yeah, he could have just turned in like this, but they went that way. And that's just going around someone that's already there. I've done this a couple times. I don't know if you know Melanie Teresa King. Um, she is a good friend of mine. She's been here several times. And it's always fun when she shows up to visit because she stays with us for a couple days and she is constantly on my butt to do videos. She wants to stage videos. She wants to do things to educate people, and I have fun. Um, but we've set up things where she's Eric behind the wall here has been in our kitchen here at the office, and Melanie has been filming as she walks in, and she literally walks around Eric, who's standing in there, but you don't see him. She goes around the entire kitchen. You don't see him, and he's just walking behind her turning lights on, slamming cabinet doors, and doing all kinds of things in the kitchen to make it look like a poltergeist. And when you watch the finished video, you don't see anything. You don't see Eric at all. It's just an amazing piece of footage where you're like, holy crap, things are opening and closing, and you have no idea how it's happening. Uh, but I've done one where I've stood in the middle of my living room and I have an open floor plan. So my living room, dining room, and kitchen are all one big open room. I've stood in the center of it with my phone like this, pointing the camera at myself with a wide angle lens and spinning around in a circle. And you don't see anything until all of a sudden my wife pops up. And you're like, where did she come from? Like, there's no way she could have popped up. And she was literally just, I was actually had the camera on top of her head and I spun around and I just walked around her, but you don't see it. So these are simple tricks. I find that many of the spooky kind of videos are less computer generated or AI, and they're more practical because they're easier to do, and it takes a lot to figure out what they're doing. A lot of understanding. You have to understand photography, you have to understand video editing, you have to understand how light works and angles and all that stuff in order to have an idea of what's going on in this image. So it's a lot of fun. And like I said, the other methods here, the stationary shot, the motion blur, overlays and masking, the front back camera cut, these are all in here. And again, they are all show you so you can get a better idea. Like they're all have brief descriptions on them. So feel free, all of you, to email me and I will send them out to you so you can read it over. Good question, though. Vincent.
Thanks. Yeah.
Hi, I don't really have a question. I enjoy watching the videos that they have sometimes on YouTube
Okay.
of fake ghost things. It's so hilarious. There was one that they actually showed an episode of Charmed. And they said, "Ooh, look at this. Look at what this woman can do and everything." And it's like, I recognize that episode from Charmed. And it's like, it's amazing how they showed that on this video of like all this spooky
Right.
things that people have done in that. And it's like, whatever, man. Like,
It's
Vincent, what's even better is watching Kenny, who'll show you a clip of the video and then show you exactly how to debunk it and how it was set up.
right. And this one was an episode of Charmed. Like you had like
right.
you saw this woman like of the witch do something and then she disappeared and then the cops around like, oh my God, what did she do? Where did she go? She got herself out of handcuffs and everything. And it's like, okay. And it was just a montage of like different videos.
I do love this aspect of my job is where I see a video like that, like Kat was saying, like I see a video and it's somebody will send it to me or I'll get tagged in it. And the questions are like, how could they possibly have done it? And if I'm not already involved in one of the projects that I have on the whiteboard, I will sit here and look at it and go, all right, how would I do this? How would I make this happen? And then I go out into the lobby and I start making it happen. I start testing it. I start trying different things. Eric behind the wall, he's looking, I see him like as soon as I go out and start making noise, his head pops out. What you doing? What's going on out there? And he wants to participate. If there's been a couple videos where objects have been launched at people, and if I go down to Nicole Scott, which is one of she's our free inquiry editor, and say, hey, would you like to throw something at me? She's like, yep, drops everything, comes down, and we film videos. She's dropped trash cans on my head from the ceiling. She's thrown stuff, brooms and stuff at me. She's rolled a cart at me as I was bending down, like a big metal cart. She's shoved. I mean, she loves it. It's weird, but we have a lot of fun because we get to experiment and figure out how these things are being done. And I can't say 100% this is exactly how it was pulled off without the original creator admitting it, but we get it so close that it's almost shot for shot, except for obviously the environment because I'm in a different environment. And then oftentimes, and this is a big compliment, I get told that we did it better than the
Ah,
original creator, which is a real good compliment. Because I mean, I have a video where it was an older video. It was like the person. It sounded like a kid, but they discovered this portal, this invisible portal in the floor, and they had it taped off. So the guy's sitting on the floor, there's a taped off square in the floor, and he's got a baseball, and he's like, watch, drops it, goes right through the floor. He takes other objects, I forget what else he had, drops it down there, takes a tape measure, undoes the tape measure, let me say, like like this, and then feeds it into the hole. And it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And I watched that video 100 times. How did they do this? And finally it hit me. I've realized how they did it, and I was able to copy it shot for shot. Even getting sucked into the hole myself and falling through to the basement of this building. Uh, and set up. It was fascinating. I was so giddy. I was laughing the entire time. Like, this is so awesome. This is my job. They pay me to do this. This is awesome. Uh,
This sounds like the inverse of these uh, these carpets that have the pattern on them, so it looks like there's a hole going down.
right. Well, this
I
this was this was not a hole. Yeah, it wasn't a hole. It looked like the tile floor, but it was
Right.
taped off. And there's a trick called masking, where you simply use different videos to overlay it, and you combine it, and you punch holes through a video so other
Uh-huh.
stuff shines through or shows through. And once you get the hang of it, it makes it so easy to make effects like this. I just did one yesterday for a gentleman, um, because he found a video clip of somebody set up ping pong balls on the floor of a bedroom, and out of nowhere you see them all roll one way, and then a minute later they all roll the other way, and there's nothing in the shot. 10 minutes it took me to recreate that, and I used a wide angle lens so you could see much wider than the original footage. You could see that there was nobody around, and a bunch of ping pong balls, which cost me $10 to buy the pack. um, but I made them all roll one way, roll the other way, and he couldn't figure out how I did it until I told him. And that's the amazing part. That's what I love doing. These practical effects mixed with some digital techniques, but it helps me learn, which then I can pass on that information to you guys and everyone else that watches so they understand how these things are done. So that the next time, and just like I think you were talking about, Vincent, like you see it on a TV show or somebody presents you with a video saying, hey, I think this is real footage. You have the experience and then the understanding now
I
to look at
know
it and
that
go,
it's
no,
yeah,
it's this.
it's from an episode of a TV show, and it's like, yeah, no, that's she's not really disappearing. She is like it's a
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
It's video editing and stuff like that, and then they were showing it in between other videos of what other people were doing, kind of thing, and it's so funny. And it's like, is this really happening? Do you ever see Slapped Ham?
Flat
What?
ham.
Slapped Ham.
Oh, slapped ham. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yes. Oh, you've seen some of
Yeah.
his videos then. Yes. Yeah, he does lots of that stuff. And it's like, I don't know whether he believes in the stuff that he's putting on or not. I don't think he
I
does.
don't
I
think so.
just
No,
doing it for
it's
like,
content. It's
Yeah.
content.
again,
That's all.
content, and he's
Yeah.
getting paid for it. So,
Yeah.
but oh, the people that have sent him stuff is like, well, this looks like it's really happening, but is it though, or is this? Oh, watch how this. There was one. There's a few famous videos of like one person. It looks like a person walking on stilts, but it kind of looked weird. Have you ever seen that one?
That doesn't ring a bell.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
it's It's fairly old. It's been
Okay.
around for a while, and nobody can figure out like how it's
Brent?
happening. But yeah.
All right.
Brent?
Good. All right. Brent, you put your hand up.
Yeah, so a lot of the deciphering you do, it's almost akin to deciphering magician tricks. So
Yes.
you work with a lot of magicians then when you're trying to figure something out, or?
I have. I've worked with a few magicians. Mark Edward, I worked with him a lot before he passed away. Banachek, I've talked to him quite a few times. Um, James Randi, I talked to him while he was still alive. I got to meet him and run a few things by him. And then magicians that I meet, there's a local magician about an hour from me. His name is Dustin Dean, and he does a lot of videos calling out psychics and exposing a lot of psychics and their tricks and stuff like that. He's a good friend of mine. We've worked together on some projects, and I run things by him. And I've actually sent him videos that I've done that he can't figure out how I did it, which is great. I mean, if I can fool a magician, that's freaking awesome. So, yeah, it's always fun, especially if a trick comes up and I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll reach out to a magician and I got a couple local ones that I also consult,
Okay.
just to say. I mean, I often run into. I can't tell you everything, but I might be able to just nod if you get close to the answer. And and I'm like, all right, that's fine. Like, I just need to know if I'm on the right track. That's all. I don't want to waste time. But yeah, good one. Jim.
Jim?
Yeah. Yeah. You're you're duplicating these tricks. There's historical things like nobody knows exactly what the East Roman Empire used for their Greek fire, but we've got several things that they probably could have used and that would do the effect.
Right.
and and then how the Easter Islanders moved those big statues around. Well, okay, there's probably several ways you could do it with rollers and a bunch of people.
Right. And it's not always about replicating 100%. It's demonstrating the proof of concept. I'm
Yeah.
showing you that, yes, it can be done with the materials and under the same conditions as the original experience. So if I can show that and demonstrate that, that puts doubt on them. And then it forces them to come up with something else. Like it forces them to give us more information or admit that, yeah, they made it up or they were mistaken, something like that. So
It didn't take an alien's tractor beam.
no. I mean, I'm still waiting because if I ever have the opportunity to get abducted, you better believe I am driving. I'm taking over. I want to drive one of those things, do a little flyby. Any other questions?
Okay, so, well, I just have a few more slides to show, but if you guys can ask questions as soon as I finish here. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you a little bit. You're very low.
I don't know
Hear
what's going
what?
on with my
What are you
audio here.
saying?
Is it better now or not?
It's a little bit
A
better.
little bit better.
Well, anyway, it's written here. So, Kenny had already given us his email, and of course, I'll put them, in the video description when I post the video.
There
No,
is a
lose it.
ghost in Mexico who doesn't want us to hear Elio.
Yeah,
But what he's
Yes.
saying is, thanks, Kenny, for an awesome, awesome presentation. And here's how you can get in touch with Kenny.
exactly.
Yeah.
For next month, we'll be continuing now.
Oh,
Oh.
Talking about how you
look at that. John without an H.
Coming up on the next webinar is John without an H, because we still can't hear you, Elio.
Amazing.
here. I have some.
I'll just be your Vanna White. That's all.
I have a magic here. Now you guys are hearing me now.
Oh, now
There
we
you
can.
That's great.
But it
now.
doesn't last long. I don't know what's going on. It comes and goes.
It's because
So,
you're in Mexico, that's why.
yeah, let me speak while it's working. So
What is
next
it?
month
Yeah.
we'll have
It's
Michael
not,
talking to us about how you go from ghost hunter to skeptic. Will
yeah,
be on October 22nd at 7
yeah.
p.m. our regular
Yeah.
time.
So
Uh,
the agents of Donald Trump are interfering with communications between Canada and Mexico.
yeah, probably. And of course, please help us spread the word. You can go to one of our websites, Rocky Mountain Atheist. .ca or WeCanReason.com. You can find our social media in both sites at the bottom of the pages. So please share to your social media of choice. We Can Reason, we try to keep it less atheistic. So if there's, for some reason, you want to keep your atheism a little more private, you can go to We Can Reason because we try to keep it more about critical thinking and skepticism. And I can see that my voice is gone again. Let's see. Okay, now it's back. And we have a Facebook group. It's growing slowly, but it's growing. So you can go to our private Facebook group as well. Please remember to donate or even subscribe. It's just $20 a year, 20 Canadian. So you can be a member, all amount. And you can also subscribe to our emails. We don't send that many emails. It's one per website per week. So you can find the options on our Rocky Mountain Atheist. You have a form you can fill out, and on We Can Reason, you have the option to go to I want to be there, and you can subscribe to our emails. And finally, our Skeptics in the Pub. We have it every third Friday at 7 p.m. We are going to be at Hudson Shaughnessy this time. Unfortunately, we are having a hard time finding a place that we can stay for longer. So this month we'll be at Hudson Shaughnessy. Please bring your friends. It's always fun, and we have lots of nice conversations there. And I think I'm done. If Kenny, it was amazing. I know you'll be back next year, so I'm spoiling to everybody that next year Kenny will have another webinar with us. And hope to see John Michael again with us next month. Thank you all for coming. It was amazing. Have a
Awesome.
great day, guys.
Take it easy, guys. See you later.
Hey, bye-bye.
Have a good night.